Welcome to the App Advisory Show, your fortnightly dose of all things cloud accounting, apps, and app advisory.
Hi folks, Matt Flanagan here from the App Advisory Show. So delighted to have a guest that I've known for a number of years actually. We've got Jackie Senior, who's the real-time accounting director at Garbutt Elliott. Hi Jackie.
Hi Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, I'm good. So noticed you're back in the office, unless you've got work murals at home, so that's good to see.
No. Yeah, come back into the office. Yeah, it's good to do actually, and I think that's the appetite from quite a lot of the guys here are ready to get back to it.
Yeah, I think the commute to home offices is like taking its toll on people, right? Downstairs or across the landing or wherever they're being put. So we're going to have a bit of a run through about some of your experience of building a team, producing new services, defining new processes around digital services and the cloud accounting. Because I think you've matured your offering within G&E quite well over the last few years, and it'd be good, I think, to share that with some other accountants and bookkeepers who are either starting or maybe stagnated or actually just trying to move and progress through this area. But before we get into that, a little bit about you, Jackie. Like, how did you end up to be the real-time cloud accounting director at G&E, and what was before that?
Well, I've actually been with G&E for my whole working career.
Wow, okay.
I joined them 23 years ago now for a 12-month sandwich placement as part of my degree. Shortly into that, 3 months in, I realised it was definitely what I wanted to do. I liked the firm, I liked what I was doing. So I had a conversation and we agreed that I started my AAT the following week. And I've sort of progressed through AAT, ATT, ACA with Garbutt Elliott. And within that, because I started as a trainee, I've done bookkeeping, management accounts, payroll accounts, audit. Done the rounds really. So in one sense, it was really nice to having gone through starting at the bookkeeping level to come back full circle to where I sort of started and pull it all back together, having seen what you need to do for stats and seeing what you need to do for an audit and how it all flows. So yeah, back to what I really enjoy, getting things right and tidy first time.
So you've seen, you'll also have seen the change in like technology. Like when you started out in that sort of sandwich placement, what tech were you using, if any? I don't even know what.
We were in a building in the centre of town, which was actually a set of four old houses put together. Wow. So you were all in almost like a bedroom or a lounge or something. So there was three of us in one room with three desks, and within that there was one computer in the room. So you used to do a set of accounts preparation. You'd do it all manually on huge pieces of analysis paper, and then you'd get to the bit where you'd finished it all, and then you would then be allowed your hour to sit on the computer to program it, to type it all in. Otherwise, the only thing you did was your timesheet on the computer. That was it each day. So that was a big, massively different to where we're at now.
Would it be amazing to go back into that environment for a week and just see how we cope with it? Crazy.
Just really, really crazy. You don't realise even just then when we first moved on to, right, stop doing it handwritten, let's start using Excel to do your working papers was a big move as well, which I know will sound hugely alien to a lot of people watching this now. So yeah, we went through various different pieces of accounts preparation software.
Yep.
And then it was when I started doing internal bookkeeping bookkeeping within our firm. I then went into the Sage side of things, and so I was then a trainer for people moving on to Sage, and we're sort of like one of the Sage gurus in the firm. So yeah, and then all moved on really.
Yeah,
so
all moved on to cloud and more into that arena. So real-time accounting as a department or a team isn't something actually I've heard that term used a lot. I mean, I've heard real-time accounting and cloud accounting, those things, but what does that mean for you? What are you delivering into real-time accounting as that department?
So within the department, we've got 3 streams. So we've got real-time accounting as such, which is outsourcing. So it's where we're taking all the client's information, getting it into Xero for us, basically as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. So rather than spending tons of time processing, our focus can be on getting it right, the accuracy, the reconciliation, doing it real time, rather than when I first sort of joined this department and decided to take over, it was very much end of a quarter. They did all the bookkeeping in one go, and the purpose was to get that VAT return done. Mm-hmm. And the bit that really frustrated me was there was no foresight to the year-end accounts preparation. The client wasn't getting anything other than that VAT return submitted, and there was just so much more potential there, really. So that's like the first bit, and I saw that until we had that mastered, we couldn't really do anything else. Yes. So until you've got good quality data, you can't then do good quality MI or cash flow or anything that you can actually benefit from being on the cloud and doing it real time from. So that's our middle stream is real-time insights. So we're working now where we've got clients that are on cloud accounting. We will either put them through onto our Fathom accounts, management accounts pack, or where possible, both, put them through Float as well to do cash flow monitoring. But yeah, without that real-time data, you can't do any of it.
Yeah, okay. So when you came in, it was very much on the compliance routine, the quarterly, annual accounts, probably not getting great, probably a lot of data interrogation and fixing at year end for the accounts prep. Like, I think lots of firms are still struggling with that scenario of moving away, but they'll adopt the cloud and we can get the Xeros and all the other apps that are out there and receipt banks, etc. But like, what's been one of the key areas in moving people to more of a more regular than quarterly updating their system? Has that been driven by you asking for the information more frequently and badgering them to that level?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So it's easy for any new to firm work because they've never known anything different. So we've just gone out and this is how we do it. From a sort of purely selfish reasoning from the firm as well, we want to kind of flatten out those peaks and troughs in work.
Yeah, the VAT spikes.
Yeah, exactly. So get it all working a lot more calmly, shall we say? So the new ones were easy because they thought that was a great idea. It's been harder to turn some of the older ones around. Got one of the ladies that actually started work with me at Garbutt Elliott at the exact same time. We joined together, and she's got some clients that she used to deal with still back then. She still deals with now, and she refers to those fondly as her pastime accounting jobs.
Okay, yeah.
Where she's trying really, really hard, and I think we're just sort of managing to get the information in, say, monthly.
Yeah.
But it's still a block. It's not on a receipt bank or anything like that. It's still a chunk of data. So yeah, just badgering really.
Yeah, badgering. And I think it's interesting what you're saying about new clients are easier because you can set this almost brand new persona that this is how we work with everybody and this is what we do. And people will accept that that's the way it is because I'm joining this new firm that I'm going to work with and they want to utilize tech and the receipt banks and whatnot that you guys use. But also you're getting, we know there's younger business owners coming through and I think definitely throughout COVID, we've seen a slightly more educated business turning up to us around there is this cloud stuff and I could utilize it. So you're almost catering for those people who've always worked with you that way and there'll be a slower turn to get them into the mode you want to work. But those newbies, you're catering from really well and you're going to come in and you're going to adopt cloud the way we want you to. That's best for us as a firm, but also best for you so we can get you some better insights out more regularly.
Yeah, and I agree that as well, because they're the younger generation coming through. That's kind of what they're expecting. They don't really want the boring traditional service. It's too slow. They're used to doing everything like yesterday and on their phone and on the go. So we need to be able to react and continue to provide a good quality accounting service, but in that same vein.
Yeah. Okay. So there's been one of the projects. I know when we we've worked together quite a while now, but one of the key projects was getting that Cat 1, wasn't it? We need to start moving people onto getting the data regularly and getting the processing. And I think that's progressed really nicely for you guys. It's just been not a huge peak, but it's just ticked along and moved along and progressed at a nice, comfortable rate for both you and the clients. But I think what's really interesting for people listening to this or watching this is the way you started to build on that now. So you've got your data in and you can do the standard insightful MI, but how you started to attack cloud migrations and maybe some of the app research and implementation projects. So around that, you've built quite a nice team. And what's been the roles that you've found? I mean, I know what they are, but I think it'd be really interesting for other people to understand like the roles that you've come across and built as part of your team going forward.
So yeah, I think you've touched on it there, that because it's something new, I don't think you can go at cloud accounting alone, because it can be quite a lonely place at times when you're first starting out. You've got to be quite resilient, especially we're in a reasonably sized firm here with quite a few managers that have sort of come through a traditional route that take quite a bit of convincing. Yeah. So you need to have a few like-minded people all together to kind of push forward. So I sort of head up the team and sort of look after the overall strategy and the direction. But I could not do it without the input and the help from all my guys. So we've got cloud solution architects. So they're the guys that can really understand the tech, they understand process, they understand problems, and can kind of fit it all together and say, right, okay, you've got this problem, I can fix it with this. The great people that can talk to people in layman's terms, not techie speak, not accounting speak, just really sort of solve problems for them. So we've got roles there. So we've got one at the moment, but we've also got an open vacancy on that at the moment, which is great that we've got investment from the firm willing to push that forward, and they see that it's not purely, not everybody has to be 100% chargeable all the time, because those roles require an awful lot of time to research what's in the marketplace, to understand what's out there, to be able to design our core stack, really. I've also got somebody else that I rely on heavily, who's a senior manager, who's great on the business development front. He's come from a very techie background. He's understood Xero. He had it implemented way before we did, so he's seen it through and understand and can see where to take it, and understand what services we could deliver by implementing it. So we've got that as a sort of management team moving forward, and then beneath that we've got some cloud solution engineers who will then implement the things that the architects design, being able to, and then learn to be able to become sort of those architects of the future and progress on.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I think when we were talking about the roles, I've not heard architect or engineer in an accounting firm before, because it's normally aligned to the IT or the engineering world, essentially, in that sort of space. So I think it's really interesting you've gone down that route. But in terms of the key skills, you've got somebody managing the project delivery, the strategy, the direction, the guidance. You've got a person who's very good at the biz dev, and then you've got a person who's good at the tech in terms of understanding, not just being out there looking at the apps all day, every day, but speaking to clients, understanding the problems they've got, and then understanding if an app or a few apps could make the difference in terms of fixing that problem for the client. And then you've got these engineers that you're looking to build up, which is sort of the career path for those people. So I think that's a really unique setup for an accounting firm. Now, interestingly, you mentioned there, it's like they're not all on chargeable time and the traditional sort of method. And people are thinking, well, you've got investment for the firm, so but what's the return? But I think what you guys have done, and you can tell us a little bit more, is you've developed some services and some processes and some pricing around that, which has allowed you then to be charging for some of the work that maybe didn't charge for before or didn't charge enough. And I think you've understood the importance of that. So what did you do around some of the services that you brought to life, and and started to charge for?
The initial service that we were looking at, sort of before we got too far down the line, was we knew we needed to convert people onto digital. And obviously, initially, it's sort of think, whose responsibility is that? Is that our responsibility to convert them because it's for our benefit?
Yeah.
And we soon learned that there were probably a lot of firms out there that maybe were doing it in that way. And because they were doing it in that way, they didn't give the time, the attention, the love to the client to really get them onboarded properly. It takes time, you know, so we saw that and developed a full process and put a package around it. So it comes to sort of having a conversation with a client at the beginning and the demo, right through to then getting them, making sure they're happy and confident to be moving on to the cloud, doing the basic implementation. So this was before we went down the core sort of app stack and things. So a basic implementation for us would always be receipt bank and Xero and bank feeds. We'd make sure they were fully trained. We'd check in with them after a month to check that they were using it properly. And then at the end of the 2-month period, we'd then do an evaluation of how well they'd used the tech in that period. We'd give them some more, we'd give them a report, a feedback report of how they've done, which maybe had pointers of things that they could do further or move into, which, as well as one reason for doing that was to make sure we didn't have a dog's dinner at the end of the year when the compliance manager got hold of it and said, hey, what have you done here? And the other reason being you've got a good selling opportunity then as well, if things haven't gone quite right, to rectify it early on. Or if they've picked it up and they're doing amazing, you then could think about other apps that they could feed into as well. So I'd say probably up to the start of the year, that was where we were at, or even probably February this year. But then with lockdown, things have just gone, you know, soared upwards really. Yeah. So rather than our standard, we don't do that standard one very often anymore. It's about more complex businesses that require a little bit more. So sorry, going back, so that package, we had a price around that package, so making sure that that small package was fully paid for. Yeah. But we didn't really charge for anything like scoping at that because it felt like it's just a standard. It's a standard thing.
Yeah.
But where you've got clients then that wanted to, you know, they've got till systems, or they've got other things they want to feed in, or they need approval systems, or they've got cash businesses, they all were additional complications into a process. So we thought, right, okay, we need to show a client how complicated they are, because every business owner thinks that their business is easy. Yeah, agreed. Depending on how complicated it is. So we thought, right, we'll have a process where we actually talk to them and we map out what they currently do, and we give them a process map of what they can see, and then make sure that that's okay, that they understand it and we've not missed anything. And then we go to them and say, right, we can see that there's an opportunity here to move you onto cloud. There's an opportunity to solve some of these problems. And at that point, we say, right, we can do the redesign for you, but there's a fee. So we're charging a scoping fee rather than launching straight into, right, here's your solution and charging for the implementation.
Yeah, agreed.
And then at that point, following the fee scoping and that all being agreed, you then can move into an implementation. But because everything's mapped out and there's so many different elements to it and it looks more complicated, and we've gone through all these processes, you can command a higher fee for it. So you're putting a nicer wrapper around it. And then as well, we used to include training as part and parcel of a conversion fee. Yeah. Because we've got lots of different apps we'll train on now, we can split each one out in the proposal, and there's a different fee for each piece of kit that we're training on as well. So the more you add, you don't just have to absorb, you can just increase the fee accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people will listen to that and go, oh, you know, that we want to do that, and I think, you know, every firm's been burnt when they've been doing these, where you go straight into implementation, don't get scope in, and then it's like this goes on forever and a day trying to get it through the line. There's no margin left in it. There's probably no money left in it at all. Just becomes an integrity job that we've just got to get over the line. When you're speaking to clients, so I think some firms are worried about saying to someone, I'm going to do some scoping, there's a cost, then we're going to do the implementation, then there's a cost. But I suppose you get confidence from seeing the value that you bring when you've done that, and getting the plaudits and the feedback back from the client. So actually, this has been really good, and I value it now we've done it. That gives you the confidence. But I'm sure there'll still be people who say, no, that's not for us. We just want someone to pop us onto zero, and we're expecting to pay 100, 200 quid to get that done. So do you still come across that, where it's like actually that they want a Rolls Royce, but they've only got, you know, the old knackered Mini type of budget?
Occasionally, yes, we do. And in all honesty, we're getting to the point now that especially if they're not an existing client, we wouldn't take that piece of work on, because we've got too much to do of the fee paying work.
Yes.
So we can be selective about the ones that we do, because the last thing we want to do is put somebody on and not do it properly, because then it affects our reputation, and also the reputation of the software as well. So we can kind of explain, this is why it costs this, and set out all the reasons. And then if they want to scale it back and they want a less expensive solution, it could be that they've said initially they want 7 years of historic data bringing in, or something.
Historic data, classic.
So you can sort of cut things down, and rather than, the last thing I ever want to do is just say, all right, I'll knock a certain amount off my fee. There's got to be a bargaining, there's got to be something, a give and take, a negotiation to make it fit.
In my experience, well, working like directly with SMEs and with accounting firms, I also think that sometimes the SME isn't aware there's a process. So it's not the case they're not willing to pay. Sometimes it's education that, this is a process we go through in order to make sure we select the right systems. And I think the key aspect for me is when we're building out these services and what we want to deliver, it's pricing to deliver, not pricing to win. And I think for some people, there's an element of, they'll never pay that. Let's charge them what they'll pay. But then the delivery, as you said early on, just goes out, because you're just like chasing the margin and going, right, we'll do as less as possible to get the job over the line. But then you're stuck with them anyway, really, and not very happy clients. You're not really wanting to answer the phone to them or pick up the emails to them. And then it just doesn't really kick on for a great relationship longer term, does it, in those sort of circumstances?
No, and I think it just passes the problem on to then, unfortunately, to the compliance accountant as well. And then it just sort of doesn't help the relationship between the two teams either, because they're expecting one thing that we've just not been able to deliver.
Well, that's great. That's great. So you've really got the confidence now to start building those out, and that's been quite an evolution, really, of app advisory service, hasn't it? So from standard, I'll call it, we'll pop them onto cloud. You're now doing a lot more around the finance function, and I know you mentioned approvals. That's been like a key one that's come up, and I think what you guys have also started to do now is start to look at your existing client base that isn't cloud and start to interrogate, is there anybody in there that we can really start to help? So hire your existing client base to make sure you're offering it to them as well, because that's come up recently, hasn't it, on a couple of conversations? Yeah,
absolutely. Because we've been at the sort of putting people onto cloud for quite some time now, and the processes that we have now were not the processes we had back then. So there's a whole different way of re-engaging with those and optimizing their zeros, for one, to be proactive with the client, two, to make sure we've got good quality data. It's an evolution, and it needs to happen. I think our problem's been time. So that's again why we've gone out to market for another person in that role. So almost so one can maybe take control of the new to firm stuff, and somebody else to make sure that we're really looking after our existing clients, because otherwise you'll have other firms saying, oh, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And if their client manager's not spoken to them, because they don't necessarily fall directly under, say, my portfolio or they're sort of off my radar. So we need somebody looking after a zero portfolio, regardless of which client manager looks after them.
Yeah. And I think as well, because you've got that element of trying to get that clean data, regular data in, I think some of the conversations that we've had recently have been like, there's actually which opportunities to take. It's not like we're scrambling around, is it, to say what should we do? It's like we could go down this route, we could go down that route, we could build some more services that are outward, we could do a lot more hiving of internal clients now we've got the data. Like there's so many options now. You're at that point, isn't there, for you guys?
Yeah, definitely, and that's sometimes where I've got to rein the guys in, because they, techie guys, they get really excited, and we could do this, we could do that. It's like, yeah, we can, but we need to. The way that we've got to where we're at is sort of steady steps, building on foundations to make sure we've got the quality of what we want. The last thing I want to do is just go off in like a million directions and not do it properly, not have a good process, and not be clear. The way that I've always built out a new service is like testing it, proving the concept with some nice friendly clients that understand that we want to progress, and they're happy to be those guinea pigs for, where it means that they get a service or trial a service. It doesn't cost them anything, but then we get the benefit of feeling confident to go out to market, understand what to pay, and also getting some great marketing material out of it, testimonials and case studies. Yeah.
One of the things just around, you mentioned around the investment from the firm earlier on, like the firm willing to back you and we need another resource. And that's, we're not going to go into the figures or anything, but in terms of what you guys track, and we've got like KPIs that we put in place, but we're tracking the budgets and the actuals. And I think what's interesting for you guys, yes, there's the way you guys track it as well is, you track per service, so implementation, scoping, training, support, but then you also track indirect, don't you? So you track, we brought in, because we knew cloud, this converted into another service or something that your team don't actually deliver. So you start to track some of the indirect benefits of being known for cloud or working in that space, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually going through a whole way of changing our reporting system at top level, because it used to be very much the traditional partner or manager portfolio. So now it's going to be very much service line reporting, so people can understand how much RTA is bringing in, regardless of whether or not they were a traditional compliance client, a corporate finance client. So so we're actually just setting our budgets. We're changing from the 1st of October, so we're setting that. So it's going to be really interesting to see where's that's going to go, and for the whole partner group and the board to see just how big a percentage it is, because I don't think they necessarily, all of them, the older ones in particular, are fully aware. Managing partner is, and he knows, which is what's important. But yeah, the rest of them we can see. But even in the last 12 months, you can see the confidence they've had in what's being delivered, and the increase in the number of referrals and things at partner level increasing, which is great to see that we've been able to deliver. Yeah,
because to be fair, any firm who's going through this, there's an element of investment up front, right, to get the return. It doesn't just all of a sudden go side by side. We need some resource, we need some time to plan, we need some time just to work out exactly what we're doing, probably understand what we've been doing previously and work out how we monetize that or make the process better, the service, or align the services really. And you guys have definitely gone through that. And I think, like you said, you've had more, you've had the corporate finance team dropping work into you because they're aware of what you do and how it'll help their deliverables and outcomes going forward. So that's been really interesting to see for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds, to be honest, Jackie, like you're just enjoying the cloud world, really.
I love it.
Been a good run for you with it?
Yeah, I do. I think it's especially at a point where, after 20 years probably, I'd been in, is this still what I want to do? Is it where, and then suddenly to get this as a project, it's like, every day's different now. I've got something to get my teeth into, and it's going to be constantly changing. So it's great.
So we've had a chat about teams and, systems and services and commerciality and things like that. And as I say, it's been really interesting to listen. But one final question that we ask on this is, what's your favourite bit of tech for you personally or within the accounting? What's something you couldn't do without on your phone or your laptop?
think that it's been a fairly recent addition for me as well, because I've got children who are 9 and 11, and I've just invested in Rooster money, so to put their pocket money on the app. But within that, you've got inbuilt chores lists for them. So they then tell me when they've completed a chore, like they've made their bed, and it pings to me to approve it. And unless they're pinging and I approve it, then they don't get their weekly pocket money paid into their individual little bank accounts on the app, which is it's been revolutionary. We don't have dirty washing on the floor anymore. It's great.
How good's that? Right, so that's called Rooster, is it?
Yeah, Rooster money. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it gets a bit of accountability, and you get a reward for doing things. That sounds pretty good. I think you could possibly bring it into work for some people, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's it. Turn it back onto P spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. You could go down that route. Okay. Well, I'm sure people will be looking at that where they're trying to get their kids to do a little bit more and get rewarded for it. But Jackie, thanks a lot for that. You've been very generous with your experience and insights and some of your learning. So I hope firms will take heed of what you guys have done at G&E, because it's been a pretty good progression. And as I say, there's been lots of foresight, lots of investment from the whole firm. But hats off to you and the team, because you've really delivered on what you've been, what the opportunity you've been given. So well done to you. And it's been great to catch up. Cheers, Jackie.
Great. Thanks, Matt.
Cheers.